Thanks and welcome to join me on the news. It's 5:50. Exceptionally, we have this newscast. I'm Kijang Henry at Timby. We begin with our headlines. David Kawala has reignited debate over the credibility of Cameroon's upcoming presidential election. The former presidential candidate and civil society leader says the country's electoral system is fundamentally flawed and excludes fair participation. No European Union observer will be deployed as observatory mission for Cameroon's 2025 presidential poll. The announcement made during a meeting between the EU ambassador and Cameroon's communication minister comes as the bloc reaffirms its quiet but firm support for inclusive and credible election. And the Constitutional Council has declared itself incompetent to adjudicate a case filed by opposition leader Maurice Kamto against Elections Cameroon. Top stories.
Canal International.
Thanks and welcome. You can check on us on our respective platforms on Canal International. We begin from Douala, where David Kawala has reignited debate once more on the credibility of the upcoming presidential elections. And the former presidential candidate and civil society leader says that the level ground is not there for fair play. Morindi.
Former presidential candidate and leader of Cameroon's People's Party, CPP, David Kawala, has voiced strong criticism of government's electoral process, asserting that it lacks the conditions necessary for free and fair elections.
Elecam, Minat, and the Constitutional Council. All of these, especially these three institutions, are what contribute to fraud and dysfunctionality.
Speaking at the press conference on July 24, she highlighted concerns over large threats from the Ministry of Territorial Administration, MINAT, towards citizens. She noted recent unexplained changes to political party leadership listings on MINAT's official website.
We woke up this morning to a MINAT website where the president of a political party, notably Manidem, had changed overnight on the website. Minat has been doing this for years. We here, the main parties in Stand Up for Cameroon, PC, Manidem, CPP, we are victims.
Kawala, through her civil society platform, Stand Up for Cameroon, is advocating for substantial electoral reforms. Key proposals include the adoption of a single ballot paper and the announcement of electoral results within 48 hours. She emphasizes that without these changes, the 2025 elections risk being mere formality.
To demand that Elecam publish the list and give us transparency on this list. We are going to be carrying out actions to demand that Minat stops with the violations of the fundamental rights of Cameroonians and the manipulation of political parties.
In light of these concerns, Stand Up for Cameroon is urging citizens to participate in a Black Friday protest wearing black attire to symbolize opposition to the current electoral system. The movement calls for political transition, asserting that meaningful change cannot occur under the existing framework.
And the European Union will not deploy elections observatory mission to Cameroon for the 2025 presidential polls. This announcement was made during a meeting between the EU ambassador and communications minister, as the bloc actually reaffirms its quiet but very firm support for inclusive and transparent and credible elections. Details with Heisenchair.
The European Union has announced its stance. No observers for October 12 election, but will support Cameroon in other ways. This was during a high-level meeting today, Thursday, July 24th, with the Minister of Communication, Emmanuel Sadi, that the EU ambassador and mission head Jean-Marc Chatenier reiterates that it will not deploy any electoral observer mission for the October vote.
Nous n'avons pas de mission d'observation. Ça n'a pas été demandé par les autorités camerounaises et pas plus qu'en 2011 ou en 2018, nous ne ferons d'observation de ces élections.
The meeting was marked by cordial atmosphere, firm handshakes, as EU ambassador and head of delegation, accompanied by his team, had a frank, direct and respectful discussion with Minister René Emmanuel Sadi and his aides. The EU trusts in the maturity of Cameroonian people and their leaders to ensure an inclusive, transparent and credible election. One where every vote counts and every candidate has a fair chance, the ambassador stated.
Mais bien sûr, ne pas observer ne veut pas dire ne pas, enfin, ça ne montre pas un désintérêt de notre part. Et nous allons faire un suivi, bien sûr, de ces élections, de voir comment elles se déroulent. Et pour nous, très important qu'elles se déroulent bien.
To continue to this goal, the EU announced a joint initiative with its member states aimed at combating disinformation, curbing hate speech, and safeguarding democratic debate. Beyond the election, both parties also touched on broader issues, including national development, international cooperation, and the media climate.
Thanks very much, Beatrice Ngamo. And persons with disabilities are refusing to be sidelined during the 2025 presidential election, as at the first ever Disability Cafe held in Yaoundé on July 24, they called for an inclusive voting process. And of course, they have demanded or they have denounced electoral practices and the call for non-violence during and after elections. Details once more with Beatrice Ngabo.
It is under the theme ELECAM and the progress of political integration of persons with disabilities and the fight against electoral violence that the first edition of the Disability Cafe took place this July 24th in Yaoundé. It aims to be a space for dialogue, advocating to guaranteeing access for persons with disabilities to a fully inclusive electoral process.
During the upcoming electoral process, persons with disabilities need to first withdraw their voter's card, go and vote and freely choose their candidates.
To exercise these fundamental rights, they must have what it takes. Hence, the call to improve the physical accessibility of polling stations and to provide appropriate assistance, particularly for the visually impaired, the deaf, or persons with reduced mobility.
However, if the polling place is located on the third floor of a school, it may be very difficult for individuals with disabilities to access it. This situation could lead to challenges in exercising their rights and may result in violence.
This issue of security is also central, as during the election period, verbal or physical violence can further distance vulnerable voters from the democratic process, such as voter registration, awareness campaigns, and accessibility. People with disabilities intend to make their voices heard at the polls come October 12.
Thanks very much, Huri. Sorry for that. And in Cameroon, is Cameroon's electoral register ready for the 2025 vote? Civil society organization Stand Up for Cameroon thinks it is not the case. And so they have called for this register, which is plagued with a lot of mismatches as well as death laws. Morindi.
Cameroon's electoral register is facing renewed criticism. Civil society group Stand Up for Cameroon has reported persistent irregularities, including names of deceased individuals under each registrant, entries without photographs, gender mismatches, and non-existent polling stations.
En 2014, des cas de mineurs sur la liste ont été...
We raised this problem as far back as 2014 to ELECAM. They promised to clean the electoral register, but as we speak in 2025, the same irregularities persist. When we run tests using the current data, we continue to find numerous cases of minors and deceased persons on the register.
Experts suggest these issues indicate the register has not been adequately updated since 2014.
C'est quand même surprenant parce qu'il faut dire que Elecam
had a budget of 12 billion francs last year, yet failed to update the electoral register. With the upcoming elections, this year's budget could rise to over 50 billion CFA francs. That means they have all the resources needed to do the right thing, yet the situation remains unchanged.
Despite previous alerts, such anomalies persist. Critics question the effectiveness of elections Cameroon and Elecam, especially given insubstantial budget allocations.
Le premier rapport que nous avons fait, l'avons fait il y a environ 2 mois.
Our recent report compiled 2 months ago revealed how difficult it is to access information because Elecam's site is now more secure than before. As a result, we've turned to family-level research, verifying names of deceased persons.
The organization has been urged to publish a full electoral list as mandated by the electoral laws to ensure transparency at the October 12, 2025 presidential elections.
Quand on ne publie pas le fichier électoral,
but what is most critical now is access. Without public access to the register, the process lacks transparency and trust.
However, the Director General of Elections previously stated that publishing the names of over 8 million voters is unfeasible due to space constraints. As the October 12 election approaches, calls for greater transparency and adherence to electoral laws are intensifying, highlighting the need for a credible and inclusive electoral process.
Draws the curtain for this edition of this news. I've been Kijang Henry at Thimbe, thanking you for being there with us. Exceptionally, Matthew Fangwa will be coming up with the brief, veil actuality sportive. From all of us, it's goodbye.